Hello everyone, welcome back to another informative episode of Agri Words and Phrases. In this episode, we are going to continue our discussion on photosynthesis pathway. In the last episode, we spoke about C3 photosynthesis or C3 pathway. In this episode, we are going to talk about C4 photosynthesis or C4 pathway. But before we get into the presentation, I want to discuss a few points. First of all, C4 plants open their stomata during the day and close them during the night. Now, what is C4 photosynthesis? C4 photosynthesis is a type of photosynthesis that C4 plants go through where they spatially separate the photosynthesis process within the palisade mesophyll cell and the bundle sheet cell. And this is what is commonly known as the kranz anatomy, where the photosynthesis process is spatially separated. Now, what are some examples of C4 plants? Two of the most common examples are corn and sugarcane, and these crops are commonly grown all over the world, especially in the Caribbean. We love these two crops within the Caribbean. Now, there is something called photorespiration, which I spoke about briefly in the last episode. In C4 plants, photorespiration does not occur, and this is because the molecule that is created in the initial stages of the C4 pathway or the C4 photosynthesis, which is PEP, does not bind to oxygen. It has a higher binding affinity for carbon dioxide. Therefore, no photorespiration occurs. Now, with that being said, let us get into the actual presentation. Now, before we get into the illustration, let me first explain what you are looking at. Now, this is CO2 here, carbon dioxide, which is coming in from the atmosphere. Right here, you are seeing two squares, right? Two squares. And this first square represents the palisade mesophyll cell within the leaf. And this second square here represents the bundle sheet cell within the leaf. And remember earlier I spoke about the spatial separation of the photosynthesis process. This is what I'm talking about. These activities that you are seeing within these two squares constitutes the photosynthesis process within the C4 plants. However, they are spatially separated into two different cells, the palisade mesophyll cell and the bundle sheet cells. Now, what we need to understand also is that the Calvin cycle, if you can see, the Calvin cycle operates within the bundle sheet cell of the C4 plants. But remember, in the C3 plants, it operates within the palisade mesophyll cells. It is not so within C4 plants. In C4 plants, this Calvin cycle operates within the bundle sheet cells. Now let us put all of this together. Now, CO2 diffuses into the leaf through the stomata and it binds to water with the help of carbonic anhydrase, which is an enzyme. It forms a bicarbonate, and the bicarbonate is further acted upon by peptase, which is also an enzyme, which is phosphoenol pyruvate carboxylase, to produce PEP. And PEP is what makes the big difference, because in C3 plants, in the palisade mesophyll cell in the initial stages, rubisco is what would be formed, and this would basically have a binding affinity for carbon dioxide and oxygen. Now, in C4 plants, PP only has a binding affinity for carbon dioxide and not oxygen. Therefore, photorespiration is cut out from this point, because PP will not bind to oxygen. You understand? So, when PP is formed, it is further converted into oxaloacetate or oxaloacetic acid, which is a 4-carbon molecule. And this is where the pathway, which is the C4 photosynthesis or C4 pathway, gets its name, because a 4-carbon molecule has been formed. Now, this 4-carbon oxaloacetate or oxaloacetic acid further converts to malic acid or malate. So we are leaving the palisade mesophyll cell now, because remember, earlier I told you that there's a spatial separation which can be described as the kranz anatomy, a spatial separation within the photosynthesis process. So we are now leaving the palisade mesophyll cell and we are going into the bundle sheet cell. And when the malate arrives in the bundle sheet cell, it is basically decarboxylized. So a decarboxylation process occurs and the malate is broken into pyruvate and carbon dioxide. Now carbon dioxide is what is needed to create the sugars that the plant need for growth and development. So this carbon dioxide basically binds to rubisco, and as you can see, if you can recall, in the C3 pathway, this is basically the C3 pathway now, where CO2 is binding to rubisco to create RUBP. This is exactly what happens within C3 cycle. So let us move on. CO2 binds to rubisco and forms RUBP, right, which is a 5-carbon sugar. Then that further converts to the PGA, which is the phosphoglycerate, and that of course breaks down to glyceraldehyde and phosphate, and that further breaks down into sucrose, which is what the plant uses to sustain growth and development. Now on the other hand, pyruvate, because remember malate breaks into pyruvate and CO2, it goes back into the palisade mesophyll cell. So when it arrives in the palisade mesophyll cell, it goes through a regeneration process, right? And then it enters back into the cycle where it is further converted back into the 4-carbon oxaloacetate or the oxaloacetic acid, and then enters back into the bundle sheet cell. So it's basically, for the pyruvate, it's basically a circulation process. Now, just to kind of recap what we have said, during C4 photosynthesis, the Calvin cycle occurs within the bundle sheet cells within C4 plants. Unlike C3 plants, in C3 plants it occurs within the palisade mesophyll cell. And another important point is, during the initial stages of C4 photosynthesis, PP is produced, and PP has a higher binding affinity for carbon dioxide. Therefore, it cuts out photorespiration. The enzyme rubisco can actually bind to both oxygen and carbon dioxide, which allows for photorespiration to occur. That is not so within C4 plants. In C4 plants, PP, phosphoenol pyruvate, does not bind to oxygen. Therefore, photorespiration is eliminated. I hope you understand the process of C4 photosynthesis. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section. As usual, please remember to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you again in another video. Hello, now that you're at the end, if this video was beneficial to you, please consider subscribing. To subscribe to my channel, please click the red subscribe button and then click the bell icon beside it so that you will be notified whenever I publish a new video. Thank you.